So, Vince, are you ready for rapid fire?
Let's go, baby. Rapid fire on a Tuesday.
Got a little audio today, and I think this audio quality is going to be a little bit better than yesterday's audio that we used. That's okay. It's not your fault.
It's
just,
it's still.
Microphones involved now.
Yeah.
So, Marcus Freeman was on Greg McElroy's Always College Football podcast last week, and he talked a little bit about his quarterbacks, CJ Carr and Kenny Minchey.
Two guys that were really battling with CJ Carr and Kenny Minchey, and both did some really good things, right? Both, as you evaluate the quarterback position, have an extremely high ceiling. They both do things really, really well, and they do them differently. Our job is to say who's going to give us the best chance to win as we get ready to face an opponent. And those questions will be answered by the quarterbacks during fall camp. I love it because I love competition, right? Now you can add a little bit of pressure through competition to see who can perform under those high-pressure situations. So I think they're both capable of being the starting quarterback at Notre Dame, or they wouldn't be in this quarterback battle. You're going to look for any way to help your team. And if that means you use two quarterbacks for certain situations, then you're going to find a way to use two quarterbacks. That might be two quarterbacks on the field at the same time. Who knows? I'm looking forward to an extremely challenging and high-pressure fall camp.
Two quarterbacks on the field at the same time, Vince. Let's just start with that. Do you think that CJ Carr and Kenny Minchey ever actually line up on the field at the same time together?
I do not. I do not see that happening. This isn't South Bend, Washington high school. I do not see them both in the backfield or on the field at all at the same time. This isn't a gimmicky type situation where if CJ Carr wins the battle, then Kenny Minchey moves and plays wide receiver. You know what I mean? Like I don't see that being the case, or vice versa. So they're both quarterbacks, and I don't see them on the field at the same time.
I generally don't think it's going to happen, but look at all the Toonces says, look at all his trick plays with Buckner. I mean, that's kind of what I was thinking. Like when you start to think about, all the trick stuff that they did with special teams, but see him maybe
quarterbacks aren't on special teams.
No, I know, but could you see him send both Minchey and Carr into the huddle at the same time? And then, at the last second, one of them lines up in the slot,
I just don't think they're a weapon there. You know what I mean? I don't know.
They might not be a weapon, but you're putting them on the field because you're showing the defensive coordinator, well, which one's actually going to, get behind center. I don't think that they would actually use both of them. I mean, odds are it's not going to happen. I think it was interesting just that he said that.
No, I did. There was some chuckles in the background. I don't know if that was us or if that was on the recording, but I'm gonna play it safe and say it does not happen. I just feel like if they're getting gimmicky like that, then they got more problems than they do solutions.
Good point. So what about the greater picture? Because he was obviously alluding to the fact that we could see a package for a quarterback out there. Do you think that both Carr and Minchey are going to play this season, or is Marcus Freeman throwing up some smoke here?
I think that there is some possibility for that to be the case. I could see, them utilizing Kenny's legs in short yardage or Kenny's legs in the red zone or something along those lines if CJ Carr ends up being the full-time starter. I could see that, and I think CJ Carr has enough positive ego to allow that to happen and not be upset about it. You know what I mean? Because he can see that there are traits that Kenny has that are better than CJ's, right? And vice versa. If Kenny ends up winning the starting job, I do not see that as the case, because I don't think that there is a logical way to get CJ on the field in a package situation that actually amplifies the offense.
Right.
So if CJ's the starter, then yes. If Kenny's the starter, then no. If that makes sense.
I would agree with that, because I think that Marcus Freeman, when you were there, correct me if I'm wrong, when he was talking about some of the offense and going for it in different situations in that media session you guys had last week, part of the reason they were able to be successful going forward on fourth down is because you had a quarterback with the running ability of Riley Leonard. Now, that didn't always necessarily mean, Riley Leonard's just, out running wild, but he could use his physicality as well to get behind a wall of offensive linemen and pick up a first down that way. I could see Kenny Minchey easy sort of, slipping into that as a fourth down option and that kind of thing. So, I think there's a much greater chance that it happens if Minchey is the number 2. that we could see both of them. And I think we probably will in that instance, like to some degree.
I do too. Again, it enhances your offense, right?
Yeah, exactly. So now we're going to play our new favorite game.
Oh, that's right.
We're going to guess the season over-under win total for the Florida State Seminoles. And I've actually got to bring up the schedule here. I forgot to bring it up before we started this thing. So we're going to look at Florida State's schedule for the upcoming 2025 season. And we are going to guess their over-under win total.
All right. I'm ready. Let's see.
Okay. They start off against Alabama.
Yeah, that's not a win.
I don't think so either.
It's a home game.
It is a home game. It is a home game.
Yeah.
East Texas A&M. Feel pretty strongly about that one.
I do too. Also a home game.
Yeah. It's on ACC Network, I see. Kent State. Call that a dub?
I would think so.
Okay, now we get into ACC play. They're at Virginia. They host Miami. They host Pittsburgh. They go to Stanford. They host Wake Forest. They go to Clemson. They play Virginia Tech. They're at NC State, and they are at Florida. So they open the season with an SEC school, Alabama. They close the season with an SEC school, Florida. And, of course, they've got Miami and Clemson in there as well. This, of course, is a team that won 2 games all of last year. So what's the over-under win total that Vegas has got listed? We don't look at any of these.
Right. So I am sitting between 6.5 and 7.5. That's where I'm at.
Okay.
They only won 2 games last year. That is going to come into play here. The fact they open up with Alabama is going to come into play here. I'm going to say it's 6.5, but I would not be overly surprised if it was 7.5. So I'm going to say 6.5.
You're going 6.5?
I'm going 6.5.
I'm going 5.5.
Yeah, I could see that too.
Going a little bit lower.
Okay. Let's see what the old Vegas odd makers have to say.
Tommy says post-schedule read, I'd say 5.5, but he thinks it'll be 6.5.
I think
6.5.
I think at 5.5, it's just the over gets absolutely pounded.
It's probably true.
Doesn't mean I don't think it's true, but like, I think they want people to think twice
to
about
actually
it
bet some money.
Yeah.
That's fair.
6.5. Come on, baby.
6.5 does feel like a pretty good number. I'll stick with my gut instinct and go with 5.5. All right, here we go. We're locked in. You're 6.5. I'm 5.5. Right?
Yep.
Florida State's over/under win total is 7.5.
Wow. Well, see,
they're getting confidence by their name alone.
They really are. I think I'm taking the under on that one, folks.
Yep.
I'm taking the under.
For sure.
I don't think they're ready to be an 8-win football team.
To me, they've got 4 definite losses on that schedule.
And that's 8, right?
Alabama, Miami, Florida, Clemson. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And so you're at 8 right there. You've got to win the rest.
You got to win the.
So you're telling me they're not going to slip up and win or lose one of those other games? NC State, Virginia Tech, Pittsburgh, yeah, I'm with you. I'm taking the under on that one, folks. For sure, taking the under. Very interesting.
It really is.
7.5. Man,
it really is. That's a high number, man.
I think so too.
You look at that schedule and you think 7.5. Like, I
not after they won 2 games last year.
Yeah, that's a big swing, man. You want to talk about most improved for the entire sport of college football? That would be it right there.
Yeah, I mean, even winning 7 games is going to be a major improvement. So I just don't see it. Fill in the blank. It's blank that Bill Belichick, as of June 1st, has a buyout that allows him to leave North Carolina by paying the school $1 million.
So is this a new clause?
So his previous buyout before June 1st was $10 million. It dropped to $1 million on June 1st.
Oh, interesting.
And this is for him to pay North Carolina to leave, not the other way around.
Interesting that they would choose June 1st of all years or of all dates. Like that's in very, they go and to make it at 10% of what it was is also kind of crazy. It's very interesting. That's the only fill in the blank I can think. It's very interesting because I don't know why a coach would leave after June 1st, which maybe that's why it dropped down so far. But, maybe he's also realizing maybe this isn't the gig for him and he could easily plunk down $1 million to get out of it. But he'd obviously be putting North Carolina in a heck of a spot if he ended up doing that. So I don't know. It's just a strange clause to have in a contract. It's very strange.
It feels very odd to me that it is June 1st because, like, the assumption is, okay, it's a $10 million buyout basically from January through May, and then it drops down to $1 million. And, like, it's easy to assume that, well, you have it in place because, like, you feel like there are going to be some NFL options or whatever, but NFL teams aren't hiring head coaches in June.
No.
Like all their coaches are in line. They're going through OTAs, getting ready for training camp and all that kind of stuff. So just seems odd, but I guess at the same time, I don't know if there's like an escalator, like it goes back up at some point during the season or immediately after last season to make it more difficult if he would want to leave to go to the NFL. But that's like the only thing that I can think of is it's there to give him like an NFL out. But obviously that's not going to happen, just the way things have happened and just the timing of it as well. So it's very curious, very unique, but it's also Bill Belichick. So I guess we shouldn't be too surprised. We're going to go back to some more start bench cut. And I've got these aren't Notre Dame related, but I've got some college football. I've got some baseball. I've even got a movie one in here for us. So the first one, college football and NFL head coaches, 3 guys who have done both. Pete Carroll, Jimmy Johnson, Jim Harbaugh, start bench cut.
There's a lot of hatred in here for me.
Why they're here, Vince.
Kind of across the board. Kind of across the board, which makes this very difficult. I tried to look at this from a couple of different directions. Okay, who would I rather play for? Who would I rather have my son play for? And who would I rather have coach my team? Like those are the various things that like I went through my head.
Okay, as
I was thinking about these 3, and for the love of God, I have different answers every single time. Like I don't. This is really hard. This is really hard. All 3 of these guys are guys that if they coach your team, you love them.
Mm-hmm.
You love them. You know
Absolutely.
what I mean? They're players, coaches. They like to have fun. All of those things, which makes them hated by everybody else. And that's part of the problem. So here's how I'm going to do it. Okay. All right. I actually had a lot of, I don't know, respect isn't the right word, but I kind of revered the way Jim Harbaugh did things when he was at Stanford. But then he went to Michigan and it just all went downhill. And I'm pretty sure he's a little cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. So he's going to be my cut.
Okay. I had a feeling he would.
Yeah. I mean, and it's not just the Michigan thing. It's just, he just went a little too far out to left field for me. Just a little crazy, a little cuckoo, and just a little much. So he's my cut. Pete Carroll and Jimmy Johnson. This one's tough because Pete Carroll, he always just looked like he was just having so much fun, whether he was at USC or whether he was with the Seahawks or whatever, just having so much fun on the sidelines, and it seemed like everybody loved him. Jimmy Johnson was an acquired taste, but that man was a genius when it came to draft capital. Yeah, what he was able to do to build up the Cowboys from where they were, right? I hated him when he was at Miami. I did not like him when he was at the Cowboys, but you have to give him the respect that he is due based on what he did with the Cowboys. So I'm going to start Pete and bench Jimmy.
Okay.
That's what I'm gonna do. I don't know. I had no idea.
I wasn't
what I was
sure which way you were going to go there.
Me neither.
Quite honestly,
me neither.
It sounded like you were talking yourself into Jimmy, and then you kind of pulled the
I know
end around.
I know. I think what it comes down to is I would have loved to play for Pete Carroll, and I would love for my son to play for Pete Carroll. So that's where I went, Pete Carroll.
Because the crazy thing is, like all three of these guys feels like, like we were talking about Marcus Freeman's culture and all that stuff yesterday. All three of these guys, from what you hear anyway, I mean, there was a lot of team culture in different ways. Like with Pete Carroll, it was more about him and, just that very positive attitude that he had and the whole thing. With Jimmy Johnson, there was and with Carroll too, but with Jimmy Johnson, there was just a ton of talent there. But like the way we viewed that talent was a lot different. That's why we had Catholics versus convicts t-shirts, because like the way Miami Hurricanes presented themselves, and even the Dallas Cowboys, because of the fact that Michael Irvin played for him both in Miami and in Dallas, that culture looked a lot different. But he sure did a lot of winning at both places, and so it's hard to dispute that. And then the fact that not only did he win 2 Super Bowls as well as a national championship, and that's one of the things. Pete Carroll, Jimmy Johnson, both won Super Bowls and national championships in college. Jim Harbaugh won his national championship, got to a Super Bowl, hasn't quite won a Super Bowl yet. But that's why these three guys, not to mention the fact the rivalry with Notre Dame, I definitely wanted to try to hit you with that. But I got to go with Jimmy.
I figured.
For obvious reasons, I think. Pete Carroll. So Jimmy is my starter. Now, I should also say, like, of these three guys, when they were at their college schools, like, I hated Jimmy Johnson the most.
Oh, yeah, because he was Miami.
That's right.
Yeah. You're probably pissed when they hired him at the Cowboys.
I was.
Yeah.
I was absolutely pissed. I've told this story before. I was home on leave from the Army, getting ready to go to Germany when they announced that Jerry Jones had bought the team. And my dad, remember, who's a Washington fan, came in my room and woke me up to tell me the news that Jerry Jones had bought the team. They fired Tom Landry and they hired Jimmy Johnson. And I was beside myself. I couldn't believe.
Just pissed off for so many reasons.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. And then he laughed as he walked out of the room after he told me about it. But Jimmy Johnson is my starter, 2 Super Bowl wins, and basically responsible for building the team that won the 3rd. I mean, there's a very good chance if he had stayed in Dallas, they were going to win 4 straight Super Bowls. Agreed. But would have been obviously the only team to ever do that. So Jimmy Johnson is my starter. Pete Carroll is my bench. Jim Harbaugh is my cut.
At least we both cut Jim Harbaugh. That makes me feel better.
We can feel good about that.
Yep.
How about this next one? Dabo Swinney, Kirby Smart, Ryan Day.
Well, the cut is easy. It's Ryan Day. No problem. He's out.
Ding, ding.
Him and his beard. See you later. This is going to be controversial, I think, but I think I'm going to start Dabo and I'm going to bench Kirby. Kirby, I think, is probably a better like X's and O's type football coach, but and I know he rubs people the wrong way, but like with the all shuck stuff and everything else, but for some reason, I just like Dabo Swinney. I always have. I remember the day that he got hired as the head coach at Clemson for some reason, and I don't know why. I've always liked Dabo Swinney, and he's my starter.
I think Dabo is probably the most likable of the three. That's for sure.
That's fair.
I mean, Ryan Day and Kirby Smart, I think, are the 2 best recruiters of this, and they've obviously all won national championships, and Smart and Swinney have won multiples. Day, to me, is the least likable. And your opinions may vary on that, maybe between him and Smart, but I think Smart is the best recruiter of this group, and you've got the multiple national championships. So I'm going to start Smart, bench Dabo, cut Ryan Day.
That's fair. That's fair. At least we both agree again who we're going to cut. That's all that matters.
Tommy says, careful. Day isn't afraid to hit an old guy, apparently.
He kind of said it.
See, Rob is trying to stir stuff up. Like, I just don't feel like we can put a current player on this. He's going
Right.
Reggie Brooks, Julius Jones, Jeremiah Love. I don't
Jeremiah
think we can
Love's career is not over yet.
Yeah.
It's an unfinished book.
Right.
So you can't go there, man.
Right.
Can't do it.
You know, and like we've both worked with Reggie, so we've got some personal bias there as well.
This is true. This is true.
And, you know, Julius Jones, great at Notre Dame, good in the NFL with my team.
With the old NFL. Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah. I avoided current Notre Dame players for a reason.
Agreed.
I just felt like it's just too much bias there because they're playing right now. All right, I'm going to hit Vince close to his heart with three former Chicago Cubs. Chris Bryant, Kyle Schwarber, Anthony Rizzo.
This is messed up. It's not cool. It's like making me choose between my own children. And this one actually may be harder than that, than choosing my own children. So I'm just going to rip the Band-Aid off on this one. Anthony Rizzo, Chris Bryant, Kyle Schwarber. That's the order. Starter, bench, cut.
Wow. So you have a thing against good players? Is kind of what you're saying?
I have a thing against people that went to IU.
Oh, okay.
That's that literally, you know how when you have ties in like a conference and you have to go to like different tiebreakers and things like that? Like we're on like the 10th tiebreaker, and the 10th tiebreaker is that Kyle Schwarber went to IU, so he gets third. Like that's where I'm at with this whole thing.
That's fair. That's fair. I'm going to go Kyle Schwarber, Chris Bryant, Anthony Rizzo.
Okay.
Schwarber, and I think the Cubs obviously felt like this. It is a little bit amazing that of these three, Schwarber is the guy who's still dropping bombs right now. He's the most productive Major League Baseball player.
I know.
Between these three. Even though he was obviously a high draft pick, but the Cubs gave up on him way too early. They gave up on all three of these guys.
Yes.
Obviously, because they got cheap. Now, with Bryant and Rizzo, I feel like they're a little bit justified. You know, like when you look at the way their careers wound up.
Definitely with Bryant. Rizzo had a few good years in New York.
Yeah.
But it was
you can also say, you know, that short portion right helped him out there.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I still was hoping that they would sign him, have him as a bench player. I still want, like, of all those three guys, I wanted Rizzo back the most. And I think part of that is because he was the first of the three to be with the Cubs when they still sucked.
Mm-hmm.
So he was kind of like the building block that they kind of started to build around and like that whole thing. So I do have some empathy for him because he was there at the beginning. And then they started adding guys. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I think that's part of it as well, which is why I put Rizzo at the top.
Okay, my last one today. Start bench cut. 3 Tom Cruise movies.
Oh, it's tough.
Jerry Maguire, Top Gun, A Few Good Men.
This is going to rattle some cages as well. Probably yours specifically. I am going to start A Few Good Men. I am going to bench Jerry Maguire, and I'm going to cut Top Gun. I said it.
Really?
I said it.
I never in a million years. Like, you like those two movies that much better than Top Gun.
See, here's the thing. I like Top Gun. I think Top Gun Maverick is so much better.
Wow.
The sequel was better than the orig for me. That's where I'm at.
I was going to, like, Mission Impossible was originally going to be on this list, but you haven't seen any of them. So
Correct.
There's no way that I can
You're not
do
wrong.
that. But I feel like these three right here are probably like the Mount Rushmore of the Tom Cruise career. Maybe along with, like, if you go Mission Impossible as like a series or whatever. Top Gun has to be at the top of the list. It is, to me, the most entertaining movie of the 1980s. Not the greatest movie, the most entertaining movie. Easily, for me, the most rewatchable. I can't imagine how many times I've actually seen Top Gun. The other two are a little bit tougher because they're, much more interesting and entertaining in different ways. But that's absolutely right, Joe Allen. You can't handle the truth. Just watch that full scene the other night. So Top Gun is my starter. A Few Good Men is my bench. Jerry Maguire is my cut.
Fair enough. I get it.
I like Jerry Maguire, but it's just like, and it's aged fairly well, but like as a movie, A Few Good Men.
The only problem with Jerry Maguire is it's a little long.
Yeah. I would agree with that.
In length. Like, I like the movie. I like a lot of them, like a lot parts of that movie. Like they could have sucked some of the air out of it though. Like they spent a little bit too much time on the love interest, Renee Zellweger and that. Like, they could have taken some air out there. If they would have done that, it would have been a really, really, really good movie. I still can't get past the love interest in Top Gun. It looks like she's 20 years older than he is. And I can't get past it.
It's true.
I just, not that there isn't even a love interest, obviously, in A Few Good Men. I mean, Demi Moore is obviously not hard to look at, but
But it's amazing, like, how bad her hair is in that, like, the hairstyle that they've got her in. Demi Moore.
Yeah, agreed.
I saw part of Risky Business the other night too, Brian.
Oh, Risky Business, good movie though.
Yeah, it is.
That's a good movie. That is a movie that would not fly today.
That's true. They're not making Risky Business today.
No, they're not.
That's for sure.
No, they're not.
DJ wants to know why it didn't include Reacher. I think Reacher is solid, but I just like these three. I would say these three and then Risky Business would be my top 4 Tom Cruise movies. And then I would probably put Cocktail at number 5.
Cocktail is a solid. Yeah. We may have to do a Tom Cruise like movie.
There are other tiers of Tom Cruise. We might have to do like a Tom Cruise pyramid.
That's what I'm saying.
At some point. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. I would say Cocktail is like top tier. It's a top tier one for me. You add in, first of all, just the ability to do what they were doing, like and then you just throw in Elizabeth Shue, like Elizabeth Shue will take any movie to the next level.
Cocktails and Dreams. That's right.
I'm just saying.
That's right. Brian says The Outsiders. Like, Outsiders, great classic movie and all that. I've never considered it a Tom Cruise movie. So
right.
It was such an ensemble because you had so many great young actors. He was in it, but I wouldn't consider it a Tom Cruise movie if you get, kind of the differentiation.
No, absolutely. Joe Allen also said Meg Ryan was way better looking in Top Gun than Kelly McGillis. And
McGillis, yeah.
You're absolutely correct. 100% correct.
Could they have pulled it off if they had made Meg Ryan the love interest instead?
Yes.
Did she just, or like, was she too young maybe to be in that position? Because she was supposed to be kind of a, woman of authority, military,
possibly
not in the military, but a contract, civilian contractor and all that kind of stuff.
It takes some time to get to that spot, but I would have believed it. I don't care.
I think a lot of people would have.
I'm in.
Michelle Pfeiffer, like that would have been
right. That I just feel like I've seen something that showed like the various people that
Rob agrees. Michelle Pfeiffer. Yeah.
There were other people in the running for that particular part, and I can't remember who the names were, but like, I'm sorry, Kelly. I just feel like there were better options.
I agree. I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
Fill in the blank. It's blank that Joe Shane and the New York Giants are going to be back on HBO's Hard Knocks this season as part of their in-season edition of the show that is going to feature all 4 NFC East teams: the Giants, Cowboys, Commanders, and Eagles.
Hard Knocks has been overplayed. It's time to move on to something else. That's how I feel.
You're totally out on Hard Knocks.
I have never seen a single episode of Hard Knocks because I can't afford HBO.
Well, how do you know it's overplayed if you've never seen it? I
hear about it all the time, and they're just redoing teams. It's like,
I thought they did this division thing for the first time last year, and they did the AFC North with the Steelers, the Bengals, the Browns, the Ravens. And I thought it was a pretty cool little spin on things to sort of bounce around,
Okay.
from one team
It's
to the next.
totally selfish on my part because I can't watch it. And so if I can't watch it, then nobody should be able to watch it.
I get you.
That's where I'm at. Because I love documentaries when it comes to sports teams.
Yeah.
I love it. Like I love watching like Welcome to Wrexham and like, things like that. And they I believe Amazon Prime did one a couple of seasons in a row where they followed a team all season long. Like, yes, like John Hamm, I think was like the narrator of it. Like,
I think they did the Cowboys a few years back.
Yeah, sign me up for some John Hamm narrated football documentary. Like, yes, sir, I'm there.
Okay.
So yeah, I love that kind of stuff. Just again, if I can't watch it, nobody can.
I just think that it's like the Giants specifically because of the whole Saquon Barkley thing that came up. Because remember, the Giants basically like resisted ever doing Hard Knocks because the NFL can make teams do it if they really want to, but they didn't do it. Like 20 plus years goes by, and so then they're like, "Ooh, we're celebrating our the franchise's 100th anniversary, so we're gonna do Hard Knocks," and they get the first ever offseason edition, and it totally blows up in their face because you've got on camera Shane with his like the poor handling of Saquon Barkley and the whole thing, and John Mara's in the room, the owner, and everything is caught on tape after they had never done it, and so now a year later, I guess a year and a half by the time that airs, they're going to be back on this. So
wild.
I wonder if Joe Shane goes running from the camera and make sure that he is never on camera. So I think it's hilarious, but I like the full division thing. I think it's like a new, a nice little new spin on the whole thing. Okay, Vince, ESPN is televising several of the Savannah Bananas games at Major League ballparks this summer. Scale of 1 to 10, how interested are you in the Savannah Bananas?
Like a 1.5, 2. Like this is a situation where if somebody handed me tickets, I don't think I would go. It's just too much. It's too much of a circus for me. Yep. I don't need to be like, I love the game of baseball. I'm going to the Tigers-Cubs game on Sunday, and I'm really excited about it because I like to grab my scorecard. I like to watch the game, like watch a baseball game. I'm in. Like the whole concept of the Savannah Bananas is that baseball is boring and it needs to be entertaining.
It needs to be, no, I don't need all that. I don't need all that at all. I completely agree. I am in on
I don't need dancing umpires and a guy on stilts. And
I might go if someone gave me tickets, but from what I understand, tickets to these things are like way more expensive than a regular baseball game.
Yeah. Ridiculous.
I don't need to see guys dancing around in the batter's box or on the pitcher's mound. And
it's just
apparently you hit a foul ball and if a fan catches it in the stands, it's an out or something.
Yes.
Like that. Yeah. Don't need it. Don't need it.
I want regular baseball.
Beefeater says no assigned seats, total chaos. Great for the kids.
And I'm sure it is great for the kids. And
not for adults, though.
To Tommy's point, he says, how do you feel the same way about the Globetrotters? Great for kids. I have no desire to go watch the Harlem Globetrotters as an adult because it's a staged act. Yeah. And that's what the Savannah Bananas are. Now, you may not know what the outcome of the actual game is going to be. Okay. I'm not a fan of either one. I like taking my kids to it. Sure.
Yeah. That's who it's geared for. It's geared towards kids. But again, think about how expensive the tickets are. Like,
correct.
Is that really family friendly when you're charging over $100 of tickets to get, 4 kids in the gate?
Hard pass.
Pushing the $1,000 if you take a whole family by the time it's all.
Yeah.
It's not for me.
I've watched a lot.
Maybe we're old fuddy duddies. I don't know.
You've
got young kids too. So
and look here, and the thing is, they're not that young anymore. I guarantee I have 4 teenagers, and they would not enjoy going to the Savannah Bananas game. I don't think. So yeah, I just I've watched documentaries on them, and it's really cool what he was able to do, and it was like all his brainchild. And he's kind of
the fact that some guy was able to come up with this idea and turn it into a thing, great for him.
100%.
Like they're probably at their peak right now. How long this lasts? Like, will baseball's edition of the Harlem Globetrotters, will it still be going 50, 60 years from now? Like,
right.
Because like the Harlem Globetrotters themselves, like when did they start? Maybe in the 1950s or something.
It's been a long
like
time.
that. Like, Like I remember, like Curly Neal and Meadowlark Lemon,
Yes.
like two of the originals.
Yeah.
I saw when I was a kid still.
Yes.
And
like I went to the Harlem Globetrotters when I was a
Yeah.
kid and I had a great time.
Yeah.
And I took my son, my oldest son, when he was a little kid. He had a great time. But yeah, I just wouldn't do it.
Totally in with the old man. Couldn't agree with you more on this.
I love it. Welcome to the old man club.
That's right.
Like I said, I'm looking forward to going to an actual baseball game this weekend. Like that, I am so looking forward to that. So looking forward to it.
I went to my first game of the season last week. Jesse did as well. And it sounds like you're going to your first one.
Yep. Really looking forward to it. Going into hostile territory with my Cubs jersey on.
There you go, baby.
I'm excited.
There you go. Okay, we're going to wrap it up with that. I hope you had a good time doing a little start bench cut with us today. Like I said, I'll put my nose to the grindstone and I'll come up with some new ones, and maybe we'll do some more in a few weeks. Have to try to slip in all the ones that everybody thought we left out.
Right.
So
people got to understand the name of the game. It's not about best ever. That's not the game.
That's right. Do you agree? Like avoid current guys?
Avoid
the current ones.
I want yes, avoid the current for sure, because there's definitely bias and their book isn't written. So like that I'm in on that. And then the goal is to have three guys that are very similar so that we get to argue about it a little bit.
That's right.
You don't want to make it obvious.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, everybody seems to be in agreement. Hit the like button before you leave and help us out, of course. And we will talk to you on tomorrow's show on IB Nation Sports Talk.